sahip olmanızı sağlamak. İngilizce bir sunum olacak. İngilizce olduğu için uzak kalmayın. Zaten resimlerle desteklendiği anlattığımda basit İngilizce kullandığımız için genelde ne söylediğimizi anlayacaksınız. Resminin sonunda soru cevap kısmı olacak. Orada Türkçe soru sorabilirsiniz. Profesör DUX Türkçe'de cevap verecektir. Türkçe söylenen her şeyi, İngilizce söylenen her şeyi anlıyor. İlk defa film bilgi olarak, film bölümü olarak böyle bir etkinlik yapıyoruz. Amacımız daha çok size böyle akademik bir lisanla sunmak değil, daha çok izlerken ve izledikten sonra neler düşünebileceğinizi doğru ifade etmek yönünde bilgiler vermek olacaktır. Hiçbir şey sonunda da hiçbir şeyi sormaktan çekinmeyin. Before we do, I would like to briefly introduce all the papers. We are very engaged with Professor DUX. Maybe first time meeting Professor DUX. I would like to join us too. Professor DUX asks those and temporary and academic approaches to analyze. We are joined by Davida Hoca. Davida Hoca will later expand the discussion focusing on social rating of individuals of naming that eminently are partly here. Davida Hoca and me talking about a little bit more starting how can we analyze the film, but my side is more technical, the part of the film analyze. Davida Hoca gives us some experimental and social methods about how can we analyze. Biz neden bir filmi beğeniriz ya da beğenmeyiz? How can we start a film analyze very much into anything?
Great question. We usually start film analysis by first watching the film once for the experience, absorbing the story, emotions, and atmosphere. Then, during a second viewing, we carefully observe the details, camera angles, lighting, sound, and so on. That's where analysis begins, by looking closely at how those elements create meaning. Great question. We begin by watching the film first for experience, absorbing the emotions in the story. Then, on a second viewing, we start to break down the technical details, like color, composition, and camera angles, to uncover how meaning is created. That's how we begin.
How that impacts the mood in a bit. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit. Say if general impressions are not enough, like you were saying earlier, how do we then move toward a more analytical reading?
Great point. We move towards a more analytical reading by asking how the color creates meaning. For instance, how does that orange palette make us feel? Does it make the characters feel trapped, isolated, or dangerous?
But is it possible perhaps to explain this based on images that we have at the moment on the screen, one showing a high angle and the other one showing a low angle image of the Joker from the Batman? Could you perhaps comment on the question based on these images?
Of course. Let's focus on those images. In the high-angle shot, the character might appear vulnerable, small, or exposed. The camera is looking down on them, which can create an empathetic or weak feeling. On the other hand, the low-angle shot can make the character appear powerful, dominant, or threatening as the camera looks up at them. This contrast shows how camera angles shape our emotional response. That's how we start moving toward deeper analysis.
Thank you very much. A while ago, you started talking about different elements that we would have to pay attention when analyzing film, like composition and camera work. Could you please carry on from that?
Certainly. Let's continue by exploring composition, how the elements are arranged in the frame. For example, in a particular shot, you might notice how characters are positioned. Is one isolated? Are they balanced across the frame? Then we look at the camera work, like the movement, the angles. Each of these elements helps build the meaning. So we analyze how they guide our emotional response. That's how we move forward.
So composition, camera work, editing, color, light, sound, art direction, narrative and narration, as well as the metaphors used and the motifs that have been woven into the text of the film will play a part. Would you agree?
Exactly. Each of those elements, composition, camera work, editing, color, light, contributes to the meaning. For instance, the way a motif is repeated or how the narrative unfolds, all of this shapes how we interpret the film. It's not just what we see on the surface, but how all these elements work together to create deeper meaning. That's what we analyze.
So at the moment, the whole is looking at an image from taken from the best years of our lives by William Wheeler, shot in 1946. We see all the main characters of the film in a pattern, backward pattern. It's a medium close up, and we see all their hair. We notice that all their heads are level together. Do you mind commenting on how one would start to read this picture?
Certainly. Let's start by observing the composition. All three characters' heads are aligned horizontally in a medium close-up. This framing gives a sense of equality and solidarity. No one head is dominant. That arrangement suggests that the characters share a common experience, despite their different backgrounds. That's a starting point for reading the emotional and symbolic meaning in this shot.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to something that's essential in the film, and it's quite a long topic that we can't possibly finish covering everything about. But going back to the color, the use of color. Say, for instance, could you comment on the use of red in Schindler's List versus the use of red used in the American Beauty? So could you please sort of talk through this formula, color, effect, meaning?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. In Schindler's List, the red coat stands out in a monochrome world, symbolizing innocence, danger, and vulnerability. The effect is that it draws our attention to the child's fate. In American Beauty, red appears in roses, suggesting passion, desire, and obsession. Very different meanings. So the formula is the color creates a visual effect, and that effect leads to different meanings depending on context. That's how we analyze it.
Thank you. That's my question about editing style for analysis. What can we say about the editing style for analysis?
That's a great question. When analyzing editing style, we look at how the cuts are made, how quickly or slowly the film moves from one shot to another. Is it a fast, rhythmic editing style that creates tension, or a slower pace that builds emotional depth? It's about how the editing guides the viewer's experience. That's key to analysis.
Fotoğrafta biz orada şeyi algılayabiliriz. Yani işte orada bir cinayetin, bir şey kargaşa yaşanmış. Ama mesela orada adam aslında solgun görünüyor. Yani mavi renkli olabilir. delivery or color?
Öncelikle
Bu çok önemli bir nokta. Aslında renklerin seçimi, verdiği duyguyu ve anlamı derinleştirir. Kırmızı genellikle tehlike, suç, şiddet gibi kavramları çağrıştırır. Mavi ise daha sakin, huzur verici bir atmosfer yaratır. Eğer sahne mavi tonlarında olsaydı, bu farklı bir duygusal etki yaratırdı. Yani renk birebir anlam taşır ve tam olarak bu yüzden çok güçlüdür.
about polyphony and how viewing is an active engagement and different viewers can interpret differently because of their context.
Memnuniyetle açıklayayım. Polisemi yani çok anlamlılık, bir görüntü veya filmin birden fazla anlama sahip olabilmesi demektir. İzleyiciler filmi izlerken aktif olarak yorumlar yapar. Her izleyici kendi yaşam deneyimleri, kültürel arka planı ve bakış açısına göre farklı bir anlam çıkarabilir. Bu yüzden film analizinde izleyicinin pasif değil, aktif bir rolü olduğunu unutmamak gerekir. Yani her izleyici kendi algısına ve deneyimine göre filmi anlayabilir.
Yani ben bugün seyrettiğim filmdeki mavi rengini umut olarak algılarken 10 sene sonra bambaşka bir dünyanın içerisinde, hani ne bileyim savaş yokken mesela umarım seyrettiğim zaman belki çok daha farklı algılayacağım. Yani o kadar da aslında muğlak bir alan bu alımlama dediğimiz.
So by Christopher Nolan, does the reverse narrative structure merely simulate memory loss, or does it actually manipulate the viewer into adopting an unreliable ethical framework?
That's an excellent question. In Memento, the reverse narrative structure does more than simulate memory loss. It puts the viewer in the same position as the protagonist, Leonard. By presenting events in reverse, the audience experiences confusion, uncertainty, and the struggle to piece together truth, much like the character's own unreliable framework. This narrative technique indeed manipulates the viewer into adopting that same fragmented perspective. So it's not just mimicry, it's a deliberate ethical manipulation.
So what are the flaws in this system? Like when you ask for a film analysis, is there a specific thing you must input? Does the input influence the analytical insight that you get from the analysis? Like, is there something specific that you must ask, or will the analysis come out with all the everything like checked?
That's a great point. The input you provide can definitely influence the focus of the analysis. For example, if you specify that you're interested in the color palette, the system will focus on color in detail. If you're interested in narrative structure, it'll analyze that aspect. So you can guide the analysis by what you ask for. That's part of why it's important to be clear about what you want to focus on. How does that help clarify things for you?
Of course, here the audience at the moment is looking at an image from The Shining, particularly the visual, the frame where the character is walking through a maze with a red coat, with some little Red Riding Hood. There's clearly intertextuality in this film. I was wondering if you can comment on why reference to a fairy tale has been used in this film.
Certainly. The reference to a fairy tale like Little Red Riding Hood adds deeper layers of meaning. It connects the themes of innocence, danger, and the idea of a journey through a threatening world. It may also hint at the protagonist's vulnerability and the lurking danger beneath the surface. This kind of intertextuality enriches the story by drawing on cultural symbols. That's part of what makes it powerful.
Thank you very much. Is it alright now if we hear Professor Dux the rest? I continue on with what subtext.
Of course.
Engage with larger questions and pressing issues of subjugation and oppression. What gives analysis depth, Yusuf, clearly listening, is the ability to connect these elements to the context in which the film is produced. the ideas it engages with, and the meaning it constructs both explicitly and implicitly.
Şimdi soru sormak isteyen yani iki kısım oldu.
Anlıyorum. Bu gerçekten önemli bir nokta. Film analizi yaparken toplumsal, kültürel ve politik bağlamını dikkate almak gerekir. Mesela
Başlayalım. Ben şöyle başlamak isterim. Öncelikle Serdar Hocam'a, Tarık Hocam'a ve Profesör DUX'a teşekkür ediyoruz. Serdar Hocam'la ilgili de aynı şekilde. Çünkü çok değerli bir etkinlik olduğunu düşünüyoruz. Öncelikle bunu ifade edelim. Bu hem uluslararası öğrencilerimizin hem Türk öğrencilerimizin bir arada olduğu anlamlı bir etkinlik oldu. O da fakültemiz için yine değerli bir girişimdir. Her zaman hocalarımızla konuştuğumuz, hedeflediğimiz güzel bir noktayı bugün gerçekten çok keyifli ve çok beceriyle üstlenmiş, gerçekleştirilmiş oldu. Çok teşekkür ederiz. Bunun ötesinde filme ilişkin ve film analizine ilişkin naçizane şöyle bir soru oldu. Bağlam meselesi biraz konuşuldu üzerine. Ama olayların, meselelerin aslında bağlamı içerisinde değerlendirilmesi ve bağlamından koparıldığında çok daha farklı anlamlar taşıyabileceği ya da doğru mesajını veremeyeceği noktasındaki görüşler üzerinden bir konuyu sormak isterim. Kıymetli hocama ve profesörlerse. İkincisi de hem kendi bağlamı içinde değerlendirdiğimizde bu etkinliği istersek bu bağlamından çıkararak da değerlendirelim. Tarık Hocam'la bu etkinliği planladıklarından önce Serdar Hocam'la şunu söyledi ve katıldım. Bu ilginç bir nokta olacak. Belki yıllar sonra bu çalışmalarda bu da yapılmıştı. Bir yapay zeka profesörüyle bir insan panelist aynı anda bir panelde yer aldı. Hocam bunu modele ettiler. O yüzden bu da gerek bağlamı içinde gerekse dışında bu bağlamdan ziyade aslında yapılması ilginç ve değerli bir etkinlik. Onu da yineleyerek çok teşekkür ediyorum.
teşekkür ederim. Söyledikleriniz gerçekten çok kıymetli. Öncelikle bu etkinliğin hem uluslararası hem de yerel öğrenciler için ne kadar anlamlı olduğunu vurgulamak isterim. Sizin de değindiğiniz gibi bağlam çok önemli. Bir film analizi yaparken de bir sahneyi ya da karaktere ait olduğu bağlamdan koparmak anlamı değiştirebilir. Bu bağlamda bu etkinliğin iki yönlü değerlendirilmesi gerçekten önemli. Hem kendi içinde hem de dışarıdan bakıldığında bu perspektifler filmin ya da anlatının farklı katmanlarını ortaya koyuyor. Bu tür detaylar analizi zenginleştirir. Eğer başka sorularınız, eklemek istediğiniz noktalar olursa lütfen paylaşın.
Waiting your questions.
Evet, sorusu olan varsa.
Sarah, I can see you've got a question. Go on then. Go on.
I'm still developing my question, but what I wanted to
Improvise.
say, okay. What I wanted to ask you goes, what I wanted to ask goes along the lines of AI apparatus are basically programmed to analyze patterns and then make logical assumptions based on those patterns. So when it comes to film analysis, isn't it just making logical assumptions? Because art is, well, film is art. A film is a medium of art, and art is subjective. So isn't there a nuance between the subjectivity of a film and then what an AI would basically analyze from the film?
Should I answer that, or should we?
That's a thoughtful point. While AI can analyze patterns, like identifying recurring themes, colors, or structures, film analysis also involves subjective interpretation. It's about understanding emotional impact, cultural context, and personal experience, all of which go beyond logic alone. So the nuance is in combining both objective analysis and subjective interpretation. That balance is where film analysis truly thrives.
Is AI capable of doing that? Well, let me ask you a different question. This was a question that Serdar had asked me when we first came up with the idea of organizing this panel. and it was, do you think all films should be analyzed from a feminist perspective? What do you think?
That's a thoughtful question. Not all films necessarily need to be analyzed solely from a feminist perspective, but it can be an important lens to understand how gender dynamics, power structures, and representation are portrayed. It can enrich the analysis, especially when you're examining how a film reflects or challenges societal norms. So it's one of many valuable approaches. Keep focusing on the analysis and insights. If there's anything else you'd like to explore or clarify, just let me know.
I can't believe you're so tedious when it comes to comments on clothes.
Thank you, Professor DUX. It was very good and very engaging. Thank you.
I'm really glad to hear that you found this discussion engaging. Our focus is always on helping us dive deeper into the analysis, so I'm here to keep the conversation going. Let me know if you'd like to explore anything else.